My name is Spencer Fortner. I go by the name Spencer Gray as my artist name, which developed when I was 19 years old, uh, along a conversation with two friends, Chris Black and Chris Brown. We were all on mushrooms. It was one of my first experiences on mushrooms. And we were having a conversation about uh, each of us being a color and which color that would be. And both Chris's said that I would be gray. And ever since then, I started writing gray on my art pieces, which when I was 19 years old is when I started selling my artwork uh, seriously as an artist. While also even as a 6-year-old, I was selling little comic strips at my elementary school to my fellow students and janitor there specifically, I recall, for quarters.
Awesome. And how long have you been living in Tacoma?
I've been living in Tacoma for almost 6 years now. I lived in Tacoma from age 3 to 5, uh, and I would come up here from Beaverton, Oregon, which is where I was raised, for holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, summer break, because my grandmother lived right off of 10th and Sprague. Uh, Her house is still there, and my aunt lives there now. And so I was attached to Tacoma from an early age, but it wasn't until I moved back here about 5, 6 years ago that I really started to really get to know Tacoma as an adult and explore the city.
And what are your passions?
My passions are making art, connecting with others, whether it be through conversation or dance, or sometimes just a smile. That's one of my favorite things to to experience in any day is walking from one place to another and coming across a stranger and making eye contact and sharing a smile with them and continuing on without any words, and that just being just the simplest way of sharing love. And I feel like this world needs it.
Definitely does. And what would you say your biggest inspirations are?
Life itself, uh, my experiences in this life and the vastness of them, uh, as I have been fortunate enough to have a journey that has gone from uh, Tacoma, Washington, to what I consider very mundane Beaverton, Oregon, where I was raised, and then after graduating high school, moving into the city of Portland and beginning to find myself as I moved out of a house where I had very strict parents, loving parents, but also very strict parents who didn't give me much room for opportunity to experience life outside of their constraints. And so uh, I started hopping trains. I started hitchhiking uh, up and down the West Coast, into Nevada a couple times by accident. I squatted as well for a couple years, even in just one house in Portland back when such a thing seemed to be able to happen before the change that has made it the city it is. Uh, I've gone to Germany a couple times, Denmark and Sweden. I was a foreign exchange student for a little bit, just for a summer stays program in high school, and then went back again after high school as a graduation gift to myself from working. And my parents also paid for half of it. And that last time I went on a week-long sailing trip from Germany to Denmark to Sweden. So having grown up in the suburbs and been able to experience all those things and uh, come back here to Tacoma, uh, the amount of growing that I've done there, I find has has shown me light that that reminds me to be grateful every day.
Awesome. And what has helped you in your artistic journey the most?
Being present. Uh, and with that, not drinking has had a lot to do with that, as I used to do quite a bit of that, pretty much from 18 to 30. I drank on and off quite a bit. I've been blackout drunk a few hundred times, and I used to justify it to myself as I was in the punk rock and metal scene, traveling scene, in ways where I saw other people doing, heroin, crack, meth, uh, and I justified to myself that I was only drinking and I wasn't hurting anyone but myself, maybe, uh, until I did hurt somebody, near and dear to me, in a blackout drunk, and that was almost 5 years ago now. And since that experience, I haven't drank. I hit a woman, and that woman was my fiance at the time, who had proposed to me just a week beforehand. Uh, oh, we lived together. I moved back up here because of our relationship together, and that we were looking for a place together, thinking that maybe we could find one in Portland or maybe up here, and we found one up here faster. And so it was her and I and her son as well, who she'd have every other week, who began to call me dad on his own accord. He's a 3-year old, and my son at the time would come visit me as well. He's 11 now, but I didn't ever wish to. I know that hitting people in general, that's not uh, something I ever cared to do. Really, I'm not a violent person, and hitting a woman especially, and this woman who I was in love with at the time. Uh, and having done that, the best I can do is not ever do it again. And with that, I haven't drank since then, because I know that throughout my time of drinking, that it it always ended up going back to getting blackout drunk one way or another. And when I'm blackout drunk, I'm not present, and I'm not making conscious decisions in response to what's happening, whether someone else does something or not. And so I care to honor life and my love for it, and being present by one of those things being not drinking alcohol.
Thank you for sharing.
That is.
And what would you say is your most traumatic experience?
That would be one of them, though I had no recollection of it. Uh, it was on a day where we were selling my artwork at a holiday bazaar at an Eagles Club over on South Tacoma Way. Uh, and we'd been enjoying ourselves. I was selling a little bit of artwork, talking with people, laughing, really enjoying the day. It was right around my birthday as well, which was December 3rd. This was just a few days after it. Um, and just having the last memory before my blackout being at the bar. We had just put my artwork in her car. We lived about a 5-minute drive away. And the last thing I remember saying is, "Babe, you ready to go home and take some bong rips?" And she said, "Why don't we go back in for one more?" And we'd been drinking since about 10 o'clock that morning. There was an open bar on the other end of the building, pouring heavy shots. And we were taking them about every hour and a half or so on average. And me being my size with my metabolism, and uh, I don't even recollect eating food that day. I was toasted at that point. We go back in there, and the last thing I remember is laughing with some people with a beverage and a shot in my hand. And the next memory is waking up in my bedroom with officers turning my bedroom light on. I'm half dressed in bed. They're calling me by name, telling me to get dressed. And I'm wasted at this point, but I'm not blacked out anymore. And they're tossing clothes at me, and also tossing clothes at me that I didn't wear that day. And I felt like that was intentional on their part, and that they were giving me clothes that didn't have anything in their pockets because I didn't have my wallet or my phone, anything with me, as they got me dressed and took me out of my home. I saw my fiance at the time in the living room with two female cops on the other end of the room as they were pushing me out my door. I asked her what happened, and the officer told me to not talk to her. And they put me in the back of a squad car and they asked me what happened. I had no answer for them, as about an hour, hour and a half had gone by, apparently, after doing some math later. But they took me to jail, and that was my first and only time. But it felt like hell on earth, especially not knowing what I did and going to a place that I didn't ever wish to go, and them taking me in, and my at the time very much having a disdain for authority figures in general. I didn't give them an easy time with them taking me in. They didn't give me an easy time either. They put me in solitary confinement. I experienced alcohol poisoning after my drunkenness in solitary confinement, and after about 24 hours of being in there, not being able to eat or hardly retain water, they put me into the general population. At which point they gave me a fat packet of paper with a whole bunch of information in there. Some of it was what my fiance at the time had told the police officers, which, considering that she had been drinking with me the whole day as well, I feel like she was at least drunk. Uh, and she told officers various things that I know are impossible, like you know, choking her for 30 minutes. That's not something that's possible, especially for her to speak about. Um, but reading that in a packet of paper and my heart sinking the way it did, considering I did never think I would ever hit a woman, let alone a person who proposed to me a week beforehand at the punk rock flea market there at Plaid Pig there on South Tacoma Way. With her son calling me dad, I thought I had a different vision for my life. And reading that packet, and I knew that with all that, I at least harmed her physically. And come to find out later, uh, through listening to a audio recording which she took from the minute we walked in the door, and for about 30 minutes after that, I did hit her once, 8 minutes into that audio recording, in response to her hitting me, from what she admitted later on in the recording. Well, so I mean, regardless of her hitting me or not, the fact that I did, like, and all that, and I listened to the audio recording maybe a month and a half after that experience. Uh, a friend of mine had emailed it to me. A close friend of mine had emailed it to me, who had me friends with my son's mother, which she received it from my ex-fiance because she had sent it to her. Um, uh, my ex-fiance, she reached out to me through Instagram, so I wasn't supposed to have any contact with her as there's a no contact order. She requested that I listen to it as closure for her, and I didn't ever wish to harm her in the first place, and I still don't to this day. Her request, I accepted it and I listened to it, and yes, it was it sounded like it started us with us arguing about my questioning her love for me, and I was speaking about in this tone, slurring my words, however, and she was aggressive verbally initially in her response, like she was angry that I was even saying such words. and telling me how wrong I was.
And with that, what is a message or something positive that you would like to say or
Uh,
express?
with all that happening, with how traumatic it was, with how broken my heart was, how much remorse I had felt, how much like my head felt like it was just spinning. I I really learned a lot more about myself, and with that, I feel that I am a much more conscious human than I was beforehand. And though it took such a traumatic experience, which hurt her, it hurt myself, it hurt the people around us, especially with like her getting onto social media and making it as public as possible. Uh, I find that I did a lot of learning and I found a lot of peace. And this peace that I've found, I share it with those around me and those that I'm able to love, who care to be around me and that I care to be around. I see so much more beauty in life, so much more ugliness as well, though I'm able to be conscious and considerate of such things and share such a deeper love for this life that I live and the people in it.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you.
Thank you.